Art, tell us about your business and how it makes money.
I buy land under market value and from people that wants to get rid of land or is underutilized land, and I sell land to people who see that tract as an opportunity.
What percentage of deals that you're doing are cash deals versus double closing deals where you're not holding title?
I would say 70% is cash deals, 30% is double close.
Do you have a preference? Do you prefer one over the other?
No, we always present the three offers to our sellers. The first one is a straightforward purchase. So I would say that is our favorite. But if the seller is not in a rush to sell and wants some more money, we are more than open to offer a double closing. And again, if the seller wants some more certainty, then we can also present an owner financing offer to buy the land.
So let's look at a specific example. So say you made an offer and the property is in Virginia and it's $50,000 is a cash offer and you think the market value is say $80,000. So if 50,000 is the cash offer, what would be a double closing offer? What would it look like? And what would an owner financing offer look like?
Generally, our cash offer is anywhere between 45 and 55% of the market value. So essentially on a market value of 80,000, more likely our offer would be probably around 40, 45 max. And this would be the cash offer. When we then transition to double closing, we are open to offer anything that goes between 60, 65% up to 85, 90%. And that depends a lot on the price point of the property, because we think not too much on, when we do double closing, not too much on how much am I going to offer in terms of percent, but how much profit am I going to get on this deal, assuming that the market value is the one that we think it is. When I do owner financing is a little less than the double close. Let's say that the double close is 80%. Owner financing generally is anywhere between 70 and 75% of market value. And this is just because when we do owner financing compared to the double closing, there is more risk involved for us. We pay a down payment, we pay installments. So we want to make sure that in those 6 or 7 months that we will hold property, then we will be able to sell the property, because otherwise that money is gone. And the way that we transition from cash offer to double close to owner financing is actually very much driven by what the seller wants. So we try to accommodate as much as possible what is the desire of the seller. Generally on the phone, my acquisition manager just present the price, because seller financing has a lot of terms involved. And in that moment, we may not have a full clear picture on how to structure the seller financing, depending on the deal, depending on a few factors. But once that the seller agrees with my acquisition manager on price about owner financing, then the acquisition manager comes to me. We have an internal meeting. We decide how to structure this deal on terms. And then the acquisition manager gets back to the seller to present our owner financing offer.
Well, that was a lot of information. So I'm gonna pick it apart one thing at a time. So let's start with transactional funding, right? You mentioned in double closing, you essentially are getting funding for like a day or two until the closing happens. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And what are the logistics like? Is this a funder where you have already existing relationship with and they're lined up and they're like, well, this is how it's going to play out? And how much money do they make? Say if it's like $100,000 transaction, like I want to understand what's in it for them.
I use, so far I've been using two transactional funders, and one of them is the one that my historical transactional funder, let's say, is Dave Dimkel, and he charges me 0.75% for 24 hours. And essentially what he wants to see, he wants to have just for him to put the money in escrow to cover the acquisition expenses, my acquisition expenses, is sufficient to have the two purchase agreements, and the money of the buyer must be already in escrow. Okay, so these are the two requirements that he has. That are the same also. I have another funder, Jean-Louis David, that I use recently for the first time, but I was very happy with him in Pennsylvania. I think he charges something like 1.5%, is a little higher, but always for 24 hours. Let's say that Jean-Louis is a little more flexible. He gives also some, he's not exactly like a bridge funding, but he can get up to 5 or 7 days also, in case. Never happened to me, but there is some delay or something that happened, and so you need to hold the deal for some more days. Jean-Louis is a little more flexible than they in that.
But are you paying 0.75% or 1.5%, whatever the fee is, every 24 hours? So if it takes 5 days, your meter is moving?
Jean-Louis has like a little table, if one day is 1.5%, up until 3 days, I don't remember, is a little more, up until 7 is a little more, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
And for Dave is 1.5%. And for starting from the second day is sensibly more, but I don't remember how much. It's
okay.
way more than that. So essentially, he's a lower percentage charge, but he's pretty strict on the timeline.
Have you run into any regulations or any kind of compliance issues? Because I know there's some states that are very strict on double closings, and there are other states that are more laxed.
Yeah, no,
Have you run into any issues?
I just comply with what the state wants. For example, South Carolina is a couple of years, I think now, that has this rule against wholesaler. North Carolina, since October 2025, has also this rule. Oklahoma is another one. Now, there are one of the reasons also why I do owner financing is because it can be also considered a kind of workaround to the double close problem. For example, in South Carolina, where you can't, because owner financing, it exists always, and you can work in all the states with owner financing. So in the states where you cannot apply the double close, you can still pitch to the seller the owner financing and work in compliance with the state's rule. I never had any problem in any states, because if I work now, for example, in South Carolina, I do only a cash offer and an owner financing offer. If I work like in Pennsylvania, I can do all three. And my title companies, I have title companies that I work with in all states where I work, and they are open to work me in whatever capacity, let's say.
Right. So if there's like a law change, the title company will bring you up to speed, and they'll be like, well, we can't do this anymore, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that what happened? You mentioned it's like a fairly recent rule, you said, in 2025?
Yes. In North Carolina, it's a rule from 2025. Now, I tell you the truth, I'm not a lawyer. There is someone who keeps doing it. According to someone else, it's not possible doing it. And the reason is that the law it can be interpreted. So it looks like, again, I'm not a lawyer, but it looks like someone says it's just for residential properties, so land doesn't fall into it. But, I don't want to get in any issue. So there are so many states, and if you want to work in that state, there are so many ways to work around that problem that I prefer not to risk.
Okay. So as long as the title companies are fine with it, they usually get it done. Okay. So is that the reason why you came up with this third type, owner financing? Like, I'm guessing that's the only reason, or is there another reason?
That is the main reason. Actually, as I said, it's something that we have implemented something a couple of weeks ago. The main reason is that I wanted to be able to make higher offers to my sellers, also in states where double closings were not allowed. Because I think that double closing and owner financing are very, very powerful ways to close deals on the acquisition side. But actually, another reason is that owner financing, most of the time, according to what I see, beats double closings. In the offer in owner financing beats the double closing in terms of how many times the seller is willing to accept your offer. And the reason being is that, as I was mentioning before, when you do an owner financing offer, you offer more warranties to your seller. If you
Hmm.
default, the seller gets the down payment, gets the installments, gets the interest, and gets back the property. And so the double closing, generally, unless there is some kind of non-refundable earnest money deposit, as I was mentioning before, sometimes we can include in our double closing offer, but most of the time we don't. So the seller essentially trusts us taking the deal to the finish line, but it's not always an easy thing. Sometimes there is some kind of skepticism. There are a lot of realities in the space that actually take properties at unreasonable price. They are not able to sell, and then they essentially default on the double closing, and the seller is not reasonably and rightfully is not very happy. So generally, owner financing, I think, is a better way to as a backup to a cash offer.
Right. You mentioned you pay up to 75% on owner financing.
Yes.
Now that's reducing your margin, especially in a market where the market values are kind of like going down, right? So
Yeah.
it seems more risky to me to offer 75%, and also you're paying interest, right? You're paying a non-refundable deposit, you're paying interest on that owner financing loan, and say it sits there for a year, right? And now you paid whatever, like 9%, 10%, however much you're offering for a year, in addition to lower margins. It seems too risky. So tell me how you make sense of this.
It depends a lot on a couple of things. First of all, is the terms that you negotiate with your seller, and so ideally, as I said, I never bought anything on owner financing, but I have a dear friend of mine, Charan. He's Irish, but now he just moved to the US, and he buys quite consistently with owner financing. And many times he can buy making like a small down payment, relatively small, that yes is at risk, definitely, but that's up to you how much you can negotiate for with the seller. And it's even better than nothing, the double closing, unless you put the deposit non-refundable. Double closing doesn't have a down payment generally for land transactions. And also, many times he was able to agree with the seller installments, capital interest only. So at the beginning he was paying only interest, or other times he was not paying any interest and he was paying just capital. Another thing that you have to consider is what is the price point of the property. So if I offer you 75% of market value of a property that I am confident is worth a lot of money, still my spread makes sense. And I don't plan to make any balloon in the owner financing, meaning that as soon as I can sell the property to my buyer, I will pay the amount that I owe to you, so the 70% of the market value, but I will sell at 100%. So a property that is worth, let's say, 1 million, okay, and I pay to you the first 5 months or 6 months. After I have enough spread, because I have other 250,000 as a profit, which for me, I'm more than happy to do that.
Right. Now this you're selling at million, you're buying at 750K, right? How much down payment are you thinking would be a comfortable number for you?
That is, I don't have an answer. Well, comfortable for me, probably on a property like that. If I am seriously, if I am super confident that I can make it to buy to 1 million, I would be comfortable probably to put like 50,000, 60,000.
Hmm. And how much interest are you paying?
Excuse me?
How much interest are you paying on that owner financing loan?
I don't know. Probably on 1 million, if I am sure that I can make it to 1 million sale, Probably I would try to pay something like 6%, 7%. But you need to negotiate with the seller. So this
Right.
just my, it doesn't mean that I can make it. But if the seller is already, he likes the offer, so I tell to him, hey, I can pay you 750,000. Are you okay? And he said, yeah, I like the price. Let's discuss terms. Then we can go to him and try to negotiate the terms, and then decide whether or not we want to go down that road. It's even better than not make the deal at all. Assuming again, there is always, as you well know, there is always a margin of risk in all the
Right.
deals we make. But if
Yeah.
I am comfortable with my underwriting, yeah, I may have no problem to make that kind of offer. Also, because the 750,000, I'm not paying them like a lump sum, but I'm paying once that I sell the property, I find my buyer and get the money, and then I pay my seller. In the meantime, I have paid the monthly installments and the down payment. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, if the spread is, it still seems thin. It's $250,000 spread, but then you're putting 50,000 down, and you're making interest payments every month. How clearly, like, if the seller himself has tried to sell the property and it hasn't sold, what are you doing on the marketing side to force this sale at million?
Well, if the seller has tried to sell the property and hasn't sold, it might be already a red flag for me. So I'm not sure that I'm going to buy the property. So I would like to know, what did you try to sell the property? So if this is an information that I got from the seller, and for example, he had with an agent, I would like to talk to an agent. I wouldn't have any problem. Most of the time, still at today, at least, I'm still using agents in the area where I work, and so I'm pretty well connected in my markets. And the opinion of value of an agent, even if agents are like have a big impact, of course, on the expenses, but the opinion of value from an agent is still something that I really like to have for my deals. So there is always this kind of, I fight with myself, do I rely on an agent and I pay him 10% of the commission, 80% of the commission, or do I do it myself? But then it's more difficult to have an opinion of value most of the time, unless you have a very close relation with the agent and is open to do that. But let's say I always rely a lot on the agent, and if the seller had, let's say, had on the market at a price that was 1 million or even less than 1 million and was on the market and for 1 year, then probably I'm not going to buy the property.
Right. Okay. So you're considering, so essentially you're looking at properties that are like completely off market, haven't been on market for a while. So it's a relatively safe investment.
Yeah.
Um, one thing you mentioned when you were talking about owner financing was you can offer more warranties in owner financing. Can you explain what you meant by that?
Yeah. Okay. So I meant this. When you compare, so owner financing and double close as essentially two backup offers to my cash offer. That is the first one. Okay. They are very similar in the sense that there is a timeline. Okay. And that is not the 30 days of the cash offer. But the difference is that with double close, generally I go to the seller and I say, hey, Mr. Seller, I pitch the double close and I say, I can get closer to your price compared to the cash offer, but I need 4 to 6 months to close. During these 4 to 6 months, I need your permission to list the property on your behalf. And as soon as I will find a buyer, I will buy from the buyer and I will sell. I will buy from you and I will sell to my buyer. And the reason why I do this is because I want to sell the property to my buyer as soon as I buy from you. But I'm buying from you, and this is something that is not always welcome from by the seller, simply because they have no warranties. Nobody can tell them, yes, I'm going to buy 100%, because that's not the case. Okay. So as I was saying, sometimes we try to adulterate a little bit this one, just offering a non-refundable EMD deposit, saying, hey, if we don't close, you have to no worries, because if we don't close, this $500, $1,000 EMD stays with you. Okay, sometimes we do that, but sometimes that is not enough. They want the buyer, us in this case, to have more skin in the game. With owner financing, you give that to them because the down payment goes back to them. So this is a warranty. You pay them monthly. This is another warranty. They get the money. If you default, they get the property back. Plus, of course, there are other advantages that they can find nice, like deferring the taxes because they don't have to pay taxes on the capital gain all at once. So generally, the owner financing is, at least on paper, I think should be more easier to accept from a seller perspective than not a double close.
Right. I understand. Okay. Because you're doing the deposit, you're doing the monthly payments, and
Yes.
clearly the seller knows that you are a lot more invested. Okay. I want to transition to the goals part of our conversation. So tell me about your business goals. Like, do you have right now a 3-year target, like a revenue target that you have set for yourself or something similar?
Yeah, so I have a target in 5 years that is 10 million revenue and 2 million net profit.
Okay. And where are you right now in terms of revenue?
I am, in terms of revenue, I closed last year at 1.4 revenue and 400,000 in net.
Okay. Well, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Considering that the market is kind of slowing down. Now, are you and just so I understand this, you're doing all of this from Italy. Is that correct?
Yes, just this little detail. Yeah.
Just a tiny detail, right? That you're not even in the US and you
Yeah.
generated 1.4 million. Now
Yeah.
tell us about, before we move on further in the show, this is a tangent that it's worth going down, right? Tell us how you're able to do this from Italy. Like, I'm sure there are like challenges, right? In terms of you have to set up an LLC in the US, right? You have to maintain compliance. You have to make sure you need boots on the ground in the US. So how are you managing all of that?
Okay, so let's start by saying this. So, for example, you are based in Florida, right?
Uh,
Now,
I'm in Nevada.
Nevada. I thought you were in Florida. And now,
Well, you're outside US. What does it matter, right? Yeah, I'm in the US.
but this is the thing, that you are in Nevada. I don't know how many deals you did in Nevada, but I'm sure that you made also deals outside of Nevada.
Yeah, we'll do all over the US. Yes.
So, besides the fact that you're American, I'm not. Is not such a big difference. I mean, you also need boots on the ground,
Right.
like
Yeah.
I do. So you are not going to see the property in person, like I don't. So it's not very different on that side. I once that you have a structure that can support you, and this is the difference essentially, because as an Italian, you have to make sure to be compliant with the rules of a state that you don't know. So you need to find the right person that guides you in opening an LLC, be compliant with the rule, the taxes and all this kind of stuff. I found this person in who is today my office manager, who is Tony, and he's a great guy. He's Italian, but he lives in Florida. He's married with a US girl, and he does this for a living. Not only for my company, actually, but for foreigners who wants to open a company, real estate or not, in the US. And he helped me to start my companies, because I actually have also another company for developments. And then once that you are inside, the first year I used a CPA that he suggested to me, And then once that you are inside this machine and land investing, you start networking and knowing people and knowing CPAs and knowing how many investors that suggest you CPAs. So you get into knowing more people that can fit what you look for. Like, for example, today I work with a great CPA firm that I'm very happy with. It's All In Advisors. And that is the only thing. So it's about creating the structure and being find the right people to surround yourself with, essentially.
Right. So you had this office manager and you knew him from beforehand?
Actually, no. I never. I met him because we have a common friend that introduced us. When I started my company. He was the one who helped me, and also I have a physical office in the US that is essentially his office. Other than him, I have other 5 people working with me. They are part of them. They are in the US. I have 2 acquisition managers in the US, 1 disposition manager and transaction coordinator that is in the US. And then I have 1 generalist VA from the Philippines, Nika. And then I have my underwriter that lives in Cairo, Egypt.
So you met this office manager. They opened an LLC. Now, are they using a US address?
Yes. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Physical address.
So they're using a US physical address, and then, but the ownership, you are, I'm guessing, the sole owner of the LLC?
We are 2 owners, my son and myself.
Right. So both owners are in Italy.
Yes.
Okay, that's cool. I didn't know that. I thought that you have to be like a green card holder or a citizen to have
everyone can open an LLC, even if you are not a resident or you don't have like a green.
Interesting. I know there are like some laws around, like if an LLC is owned by a foreign national and you do buy like certain piece of land, then you have to do like certain disclosures.
Yeah, that is actually now I don't know the details, but probably you refer to the what is called the FIRPTA. That I'm not sure if you refer to that, but most of the time this disclosure are for foreign entities. So if I buy, for example, a property in the US as Arturo, okay, so I am Italian. Or I have a company in Italy. Now, the equivalent of the LLC in Italy is called SRL. So I have an SRL in Italy, and I want to buy a property in the US and put it in the name of my Italian company. Then there are some rules and some disclosure. But if you create a US entity, I am a US person, let's say person, and I go through the laws of all the US entities. There is no distinction.
Right. What about like when you have to notarize documents? How easy or hard is it?
Well, it's super easy. At the beginning, in my operating agreement, I had Tony, who is also a notary besides, and his wife also is a public notary. But I had Tony who was allowed to sign on behalf of the company. Okay, so that was a standing, and still as in my operating agreement, there is still that clause. But since I took on board Amy, my disposition manager, she is a girl from North Carolina. We have a standing addendum to the operating agreement where essentially she is, as my disposition manager, she can sign and execute every agreement and everything on my name on behalf of the company.
Right. So and you are extending a lot of trust.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And did you like, I'm guessing you did like background checks and whatnot when you hired people?
Yes, actually, this person was the disposition manager and transaction coordinator of a very, very big investors. They are 2 brothers that invest together. that now they have pivoted. They still have a land business. They have a big education group, but they have more pivoted towards other endeavors. For example, recently they bought Droners.io, and they are buying and selling companies. And so Amy decided to get out from that. But let's say I know that she was serious because I know that these guys, who these guys are, and also actually she also has access to my bank account, if she has to pay, because she's also my disposition manager. So for example, if she has to pay the droners, or if she has to pay some expenses connected to the purchase of the property, a soil test or something like that, she can access to my bank account with a capped amount on a weekly basis. But yes, I trust her unconditionally. So it's a person.
Right.
I rely on.
Do you have like checks and balances in place? Like you do like some like accounting, or someone does accounting and make sure all the money is going where it's supposed to?
Yes, my bookkeeper.
Okay. Are you ever on the phone talking to buyers or sellers, or your team is managing the whole operation?
Nowadays, it's all my team. My team. I have meeting with them, and they report to me. Of course, I have at the moment still a daily meeting with the acquisition managers and one meeting with all the team on Fridays. And they report to me, and of course I try to work as much as possible as the problem solver, also because and this is probably a part that we skipped. Other than living in Italy, I also have a day job in Italy.
Mm.
I'm an active duty.
There's a twist in the story.
I am an active duty Navy officer, so it keeps me quite busy. Which, I tell you the truth, on one side, to have a day job or to have other commitments, it would, in a way, forces you to be very focused in the hours that you allocate to the business. I tell you, recently, this last year, now in March it will end, but this last year, I actually took 1 year off from the Navy. So a sabbatical, we can take it. And the truth is that I didn't produce as much in terms of, results, or at least I didn't produce way more than the previous year that I was working in the Navy. And the reason being probably is that I didn't manage well my time, because I have so much. And and so when you have less time, you are, at least I am more focused. They say, I have just 4 hours. Let's do that.
Yeah. I mean, that's true for everyone, right? Like the less time you have, the more focused you become. But I would like to reiterate, like we have turned this into a Game of Thrones type episode because no one was expecting. You just told me you're making 1.4 million, you have a 10 million goal, and no one was expecting you at a day job.
Yes.
So definitely this is the turning point. Okay. So do you have any plans like of leaving your day job, or are you gonna keep on doing it?
I tell you the truth. For a while, I was considering it, but there are a few things that do not really make it easy. And the most important one is that all the money that I make in the US, it goes back into my business. So I don't pay myself any profit. And this is because I have a salary here that I can live off. And I want my business to grow as much as possible at the same time. Plus, if I pay myself dividends and I bring them to Italy, I have to pay almost 50% of what I take to Italy in taxes. So the only way for me would be to become a fiscal resident in some states that have a lower taxation, Malta, or there are other places like Panama, or so on and so forth. So other than that, I have only 5 years to retire, 6 actually, because I took this sabbatical year. And if I retire now, after 33 years in the Navy, I joined the Navy in 1993. If I retire now, I would be sensibly affected in terms of pension, and they said we receive an amount of money once that we retire. So I will got almost half of my pension when I am 67, and today I was born in 1974, so I'm far from there. And also this sum of money that I expect to receive in the moment that I retire, it would be way, way less. So there are a series of things, as I can do it so far at least, keeping my job, and I was able to grow the company among 1,000 struggles. I don't want to say that it was easy or that it is easy, but I keep staying in the Navy. I don't dislike what I do in the Navy, absolutely. So there is no real reason for me now to quit.
Yeah, no, makes sense. I mean, you spend so much time, might as well just finish the tenure. I wanted to transition to the constraints portion of the episode. Tell me about the current constraints or challenges that you are dealing with in your real estate company.
Yes. So I would say now two that come to my mind is one is a more robust social media presence, and being become more reputable and credible in the eyes of people. And now I'm working in that direction. Now for example, I decided to, and it's a small thing, but is in that direction. I decided I just got the accreditation to the BBB like 2 days ago. I would like to increase my presence on social media to make people know what I do and how I do it, and see that I am a real person. I think that this thing nowadays, probably with all the digital avatar AI, it's to show to the people that you are real. So put your face in your business is something that has even more value than it could have in the past. Okay, because now you look at a video on your Facebook, you don't even know if it is true or it is AI. I mean,
Yeah.
so and the other one, so social media, and increase my presence online, and another one is work on a better acquisition. So acquisition side, I consider it since always to be the most critical cog of a land investing business. Not because this position is easy, but because, frankly speaking, if you buy the right property at the right price, you are going to sell. It's just about how good you can buy and how good is the property, and then you will sell. Probably you will not sell in 1 month like you wanted. Probably you will sell in 5, but there is no doubt that you will sell for a profit. I never had a loss in my business so far.
Right.
So acquisition has become like a little more difficult. The profit margins has shrinked when you started, and when I started also. That was a few years after you probably. You could still buy properties for 25 cents on the dollar, 25 cents on the dollar, and
Yep.
now,
Good old days. Yeah.
yes, now, as we say, the good old days, right? Now you are happy if at the end you have like a net return of 30% on a
Right.
paycheck that you make.
Yeah.
So now is very, very important to find someone that is able to close. So I talk about hiring, for example, acquisition managers. Now I'm in the process to hire these 2 acquisition managers. I had to let go the previous ones. that hope they will be able to take the number of contracts that I want them to take. And once that I have a number of contracts on a consistent base every month, I will start to sell also more consistently, right? So because of these 10, 15 contracts that I get a month, for example, I will sell probably 2 tomorrow, 2 the next month, 2 the month after that. Meanwhile, I will get other 10, 15 every month. So my pipeline will be always fed up.
Right. All right. So let's pick them apart one at a time. So social media presence. So I want to understand, is the why is that important? So is it important because you want to attract, you want to show that you are a legit buyer on the acquisition side, or is this more for the dispo side?
No, it's more for the credibility branding, let's say, for the branding thing of branding side of my business. So
But which side?
both sides that
Both
I
sides.
am a credible business and become a kind of authority in the field and have people recognize me when they want to sell their piece of land.
Well, I hope some people watch this episode and they'll recognize you who you are now, especially with the twist you threw at me in the middle of the episode. Okay, so social media presence is important. I mean, it's kind of obvious, that we do something similar. We go live every day. Like my wife is like live pretty much every day at the same time, so people know. So we are also heavily investing in social media. I totally agree. That's the future, right? You want to build goodwill in the marketplace. Um, you mentioned better acquisition, buying at the right price. Now that has been so that's how I used to think, and I'm kind of shifting perspective, and I would love to hear your thoughts as well. I used to think it was all about buy, like that's the normal convention. If you buy it at like 30 cents at a dollar, you don't need to sell at a dollar. You can sell at 65 cents and you doubled your money, right? But now as the competition has grown, I kind of like started to shift perspective and think more on the sell side, how we can increase the LTV, lifetime value of the customer. So, and it's more important, it's more relevant to my business and less to you because you're, I'm guessing, selling mostly through realtors, right? Is that correct?
Yes, at today, yes, something is changing. I would like to increase also the number of in-house listing, but as I said, I still appreciate working with agents. Yeah.
Yeah. So we 2024 we worked with agents mostly in North Carolina. 2025 first half we worked with agents. I mean, and we had good success, but then the market went down. Especially in North Carolina, it was like a cliff, like a drop, cliff drop, because it just like completely died, and our listings were just sitting there. And then we had to like, our agent contracts were ending, so we had to like started selling ourselves. And that's kind of like the pivot happened where we're like, well, we have sold 700 plus properties, and these are not super high expensive, so all of them are less than 50K, 40K. And we have this existing buyer base. If we maintain relationships with them, we talk to them more often. A lot of time we can sell our properties to repeat buyers, so we're increasing the LTV, lifetime value per customer, right? So that's where we started leaning more towards. I used to think it was all about buying at the right price, but now I'm like starting to think that yes, buying at the right price is important. But if you cannot buy because of the competition, because of the weird market dynamics, because it used to be high prices, now they're low. So seller are still in the old mindset, right? So even if we come in at like 70% of the market, if we can sell at 100%, because before we used to sell at like 80%, right? But if
Mm-hmm.
we can sell at 100%, so we're still capturing that 30% net, right? And that's the reason why we're like focusing more on building relationships. Like recently we started doing this thing. We have like these 700 buyers, we have their birthday. So now we call them on their birthdays and, just do wish them happy birthday, do a check-in, how things are going, if they're in the market anytime soon, right? If they say, well, yeah, in 6 months I'm thinking of buying this or that, we like add note that in our CRM, right? So we started building these check-ins and follow-ups and connections, um, so which hopefully will help us improve the LTV. What are your thoughts? Tell me about your thoughts and how you're thinking about dispo.
Yeah, I think that I I'm very I read a lot of stuff about business. So I recently I read the books from Alex Hormozy, and
Yeah,
he talks a lot about lifetime value, and for him is very important parameters, and. I don't know personally. I don't know. I mean, it can be something that you can apply to our niche, I think, and you are trying to do. But personally, the kind of buyers that I sold the property to, they were, one-shot buyers. So someone who is looking for land to put a mobile on it or to build a house, but they are not really recurrent buyers.
right,
So I I don't have at the moment, and probably I should. I don't have a buyers list in the markets where I work. Besides, I work like in many markets, many states. Uh,
yeah,
so I work for 1 month. I am in Virginia, and the month up, the next time that I am in Virginia is after other 5 months. Because in the other five, I am 1 month in Ohio, 1 month in Kentucky, 1 month in Michigan, 1 month. So I don't have like a solid base of people that remembers me. And I don't say that this is the most effective way of doing things. Many times people say, and I understand, just stay in one market and work there. I know persons that are making a lot of money just specializing in one market. The
right,
Daniels sisters, they work, for example, in Tennessee, and other people. But yeah, that's not how my business is now. But this to say, for what is my experience so far, I don't have buyers that are that they show themselves again. Hey, I'm going to buy again. So far, never happened that I had someone like
right.
offering to buy other properties from me. Uh,
Yeah,
so to me,
yeah.
it is not something that I can apply at today at my business, at least.
Yeah, I mean, you'll be surprised. A lot of times people don't buy like for themselves, but they will like have referrals or like, they'll be like, oh, yeah, my cousin is in the market. Although that applies more to my business. As I said, mine are sub 30K, sub 40K properties, and you're selling like more six-figure properties. So it is the buyer ICP, ideal customer profile, is different because someone who's buying, spending 140,000 dollars on a piece of land, they're probably getting a loan or a mortgage and they're trying to build on it, right?
Yeah,
Whereas my buyer pool is more
yeah.
recreational based buyers. So it applies both. It applies more to that.
Can I ask
But yeah,
you? Can
yeah,
I ask you a question about the life value? Uh,
yeah,
when you said so you're comfortable to buy at 70% and selling at 100, right? If you have like buyers in the area, this is my
yeah,
understanding. Uh,
right.
but if you have a property and you are theoretically, at least, you are okay with buying it at 70% before you buy it, are you going to your buyers list and ask, hey, is there anyone here who wants to buy? Or you buy and then you put in front of the eyes of these people?
Well, we'll only go up to 70% if it's in a market that we already have a lot of properties in and that we already like do a lot of churning. Like it's almost like like the grocery store example, right? When you have like bread and you have oatmeal and you have all these things, and you're like, when you're low on supply, you just buy more on the shelf to put on, right? So if we're selling like, there are like certain counties in Florida where we keep like 10, 15 properties at all times, right? And
Yeah,
then if we are low on them, like if say, well, only three left, we are 100% certain and we know exactly what price point it sells, right? We might, where if we're negotiating on a price with, we sent a direct mail, we're negotiating on a price, and we buy, say, for example, at $9,000 usually, but they're stuck at 12,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then we'll be like, well, we're still going to make like 35%. So we'll like just buy it because we're low on inventory, right?
Yes.
That kind of thing. But these are areas where we are very confident that
Yeah.
we're going to sell in the next 6 months.
You know
So
that.
it is more like cookie cutter properties. Like these are like half acre properties in like Marion County, Putnam County, Lee County,
Mm-hmm.
Okeechobee County, Florida, right? Where we know exactly like the we
Yeah.
kind of like memorized the comps. We already know exactly how much it will sell for.
That is the advantage that I'm not leveraging, applying
Right.
my business model. So
Yeah.
working in many markets, I don't have like a super deep knowledge. I have a good knowledge of the markets where I work, but I have not like a super knowledge, superpower of knowing like this well the markets where.
Right. So it turns into more of a commodity
Mhm.
style business, right? Because you're selling a product. Well,
Yes.
now you're selling like it's almost like selling on Amazon, right? So you know exactly what it goes for. And when you run a business like that, right? Obviously, you make less absolute profit per deal. So you have to do more volume, right?
Mhm.
But the biggest advantage that we found, because we did both models. We did the realtor model and we did the selling ourselves mostly on owner financing model. Now that we did both sides and we see pros and cons of each approach, we realized that when we go to this commodity model where like a lot of other people also are selling in the same similar property in the similar area, and they're not unique, right? Like you might buy 20-acre property in Virginia, which is like very unique. There are literally any comps, right? And we might buy half an acre in Marion or Lee County, and they're like 100 other listings, right? But the fact is, the fact that we're buying and selling a lot of those ha- gives us like a little bit of a competitive advantage because we have an existing buyers list now, right? So
Yeah.
it turns into a more traditional style model where now you can start calculating your CAC, cost of acquiring a customer, and LTV, right, per customer, because now you're like, oh, so this person bought three. That means their LTV went from $15,000 to $45,000,
Yeah.
right? And now you can think about, oh, okay, so if my LTV, so it's all about ratios, right? CAC to LTV ratio. So if my ratio is now like 1 to 9 or 1 to 10, right? CAC to LTV, that means I can spend more money on advertising, right?
Yeah.
So it's similar to like I talk about this in my book as well. A lot of the concepts are borrowed from like Russell Brunson, Alex Hormozy, and
I
Frank
will.
Kern.
Do I find it on Amazon?
Yeah. The land business.
I will.
Yeah. You if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read it
I,
for free. But
ah.
yeah, I think because I didn't I had exact same thought that you had, where like, well, LTV doesn't apply to our business. Like, how would it apply? I'm like constantly switching markets, right? But then when we were forced to transition into the new model, where we're like, all right, the agents can sell it, so now we need to take back the dispo side, and then we started, thinking like, oh, so we need to start caring about CAC and LTV. Actually, so one of the principles that really like changed my whole perspective was like there are only two ways to grow a business. When you're running more traditional business, not like deal by deal, but more traditional business when you're running, there are only two ways you can grow it. First is you can spend more money on marketing and advertising and acquire new customers, right? Acquire more customers. But the better approach, or the second way, is to make your existing customers more valuable, right? By reselling them more properties. So once you start thinking in terms of existing customers more valuable, because then your LTV keeps on increasing, right? Because what happens? Like we started in 2018, right? 2019 is more expensive. 2020 was more expensive. 2021 more expensive, right? The cost of advertising, direct mail, it just keeps on increasing,
And
right?
it's
Land.com used to be a standard listing and then signature listing. It was like that was their whole 2018. That was their whole website. You can buy like $20 or whatever standard listing, or you can pay like $60 for signature listing. Right
Yeah.
now they have standard, they have signature, then they added platinum, 300, 350, $400. Then they added diamond. Now they're charging $800 per listing. Like it went from $40 per listing to $800 per listing, right? So those costs, I'm pretty sure they're going to come up with ruby and like some other emerald and some other gemstones. They're just going to keep going up, right? Because as the competition,
Yes. Yeah.
right, bro?
You have to find a way to, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was wondering, do you think that there is a way, because, our business, the land business, real estate business in general, for an investor is made of, they are like to have two separate businesses. On one side, you have the acquisition business. On one side, you have the sales business, right? So when you talk about customers, you can see customers. Because I see acquisition as the main cog of the whole machine. Many times when I think of customers, my mind goes directly to sellers, not to buyers. Okay. And so I was wondering, have you ever thought about a way to increase the LTV on the acquisition side? I don't know. I have this something that just.
I think LTV is always on the customer side, because on the acquisition side, they're theoretically not a customer, because you're that's COGS, cost of goods sold, right? The cost of, like, if you're buying a machine,
Yes,
right, you're paying for that machine, right?
Yes,
and then
you're still selling something which is not a property but is an offer. So what is a way to have them, a seller coming back to you to sell their properties or to refer you to other people so you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of selling, technically, COGS and what you say, but technically you're still selling something, which is not a piece of land, but is the offer that you're making. So you're selling your price, your proposition. So I was wondering just
from a math perspective, I would still categorize that on the CAC side of things, right? Cost of acquisition, right? So that is getting lower. So you're spending money to acquire a product, right?
Yes.
So say you're spending right now $300 to acquire one property, right? Now, if you have one seller refer you to another seller, say it's a neighbor, and they talk to each other, and the neighbor also sells you the property, your cost to acquire that customer on the acquisition side went from $300 to $150 because it got divided by 2, right?
Yes.
So that's how I think about it. Acquisition is all on the CAC side of things, but then you're also right. It does get complicated because it is a separate business, right? So acquisition side is a separate, like a line of business, and then on the sell side, you're thinking CAC and LTV differently, because now you're thinking cost of acquiring a customer for your existing inventory.
Yes.
Right? So it is more complicated than a traditional business where you're selling just a service and you don't have to worry about the product, and you're just thinking in terms of true CAC and true LTV. Whereas in our business, our CAC and LTV kind of like you have to calculate on both sides, right? But on the acquisition side, it's more about acquisition cost. But on the sales side, it becomes more of a traditional CAC versus LTV. So it does get complicated. It does get like a little bit of a nested, deeper level of thinking, which we probably lost all the viewers now because we had this beautiful Game of Thrones arc going.
Operations.
and now we got into like deep mathematical
Beautiful
derivations. Now it's just you and me, Art. Now we can do real talk. We lost everyone.
Yeah. Sorry. For those that are still here, sorry. Just that.
Yeah. So that was one of the big realization. and that happened, as I was writing this book. The other realization I had was, um, and this is like a formula that I kind of like learned. The amount of money a business makes is equal to the amount of goodwill you have in the marketplace multiplied by the number of offers you make to the customers. So what does that mean? I use a cafe shop example to, when I go on podcasts to explain this. So say, Art, you and I have a coffee shop in like a small town. There's no Starbucks, just us, right? So when a customer comes to you in your coffee shop and they say, well, I would like to buy a small cappuccino. And then you're like, well, you should try the large one. You get a free pastry with it. And then we also sell croissant, and we also sell cookies, and we also have these coffee beans, right? So you kind of like have this conversation and you like upsell and make like 4 or 5 offers to each customer. And that's how you're running your coffee shop. Whereas when someone comes to my coffee shop, they say, I would like a small cappuccino, and then I just serve it to them and they go home, right? So you are making like 5, 6, 7 offers per customer, and I am making 1 offer per customer, right? So you can imagine, if our coffee shops are getting 100 customers per day, at the end of the year, your revenue numbers might be like 5, 6, 7 times my revenue numbers, because you're making so many more offers and people are taking more offers, right? So that's the number of offers side of an equation. And then there's goodwill, right? And if people know Art produces content, Art is on YouTube, Art is part of the community event, so people know everyone. They know you by name, right? So the more offers you make, they're more likely to be accepted because they trust and like you. They know, like, and trust you, right? Whereas if I don't have any goodwill, if I try to make more offers, people will be like, no, thank you. I just need the coffee and I'll be on my way. Right. So that learning, right? The amount of money a business makes is equal to the amount of goodwill you have in the marketplace, just like you're trying to build goodwill with social media presence, right? Multiplied by number of offers. Now, this does not apply to a normal land investing business, because when we buy properties, right, we list it with an agent, and the agent just sells it to them. We don't even know who bought it, right? We find out during closing when we are looking at the HUD. Oh, it's a builder, right? We don't even know, because they're not supposed to disclose, right? So it didn't apply. But then when we shifted to this commodity model, then we're like, oh, wait a second. 80% of our sales are happening on owner financing. That means we have an opportunity to build a relationship and make more offers. Would you like help with doing a perk test? Would you like a survey on this property? Would you like us to fence the property? Do you need help with mobile home dealers?
You
Do
offer
you need,
service.
right? So the more offers you make, the more people say yes. We're like surprised by like things, we're just like coming up with like random creative things, like something so creative, like literally this was like a chat GPT idea of offering beneficiary, adding a beneficiary to your owner financing contract and charging for it. I was like, this is ridiculous. No one's going to accept it. We literally have like 3 people accept in the last 2 weeks. It's like so ridiculous. It's like, why? It's like a 2-year loan. Why would anyone add a beneficiary to it? Right? But people they want the peace of mind that something happens to them, that it gets transferred over to like a beneficiary. Like, so stuff like this, it's like completely changing how, we used to think about the land business. And that's one of the reasons, like, it's like so mind blowing to me. And I was like, dude, I was like telling my wife, we need to put it in a book, because this is like completely game changing, the way the way of thinking of business. But once again, probably not super helpful to you, because you're selling like these $200,000, $300,000 properties, and they're like one time buy. But if you do ever switch to more like a commodity style selling, this all these concepts really come in handy.
Yeah, it's super interesting, man. It's yeah, it's talking with you, I have like a really beautiful mind, a lot of things that are coming to my mind, and I should probably try to do differently.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole reason we do this, right? So we learn from each other, right? That's the big value add. One thing we did not discuss is your acquisition channels. We didn't discuss whether you're acquiring these properties through direct mail, cold calling, email marketing. Tell us about that.
So yes, today I have one marketing channel that is cold calling. I use a third-party service, Land Caller,
Hmm.
called, owned by a land investor, Joe, and I'm fairly happy. We target about this month. Actually, we have 3 callers with them, and we target about 45,000 record owners. And according to the benchmark that they and the proven KPI that they just passed to me yesterday, that should bring about 200 leads roughly a month. Of course, how motivated are they? Yeah, it depends. It's people that is willing to receiving an offer, but when they arrive to my CRM, generally we categorize them as priority 1, 2, 3, depending on how far is their asking price compared to our max offer. And let's say of these 200, a good 40% generally has quite unreasonable offers from an investor perspective. And then, like, now to not lose the ones that are here, I don't want to get much into it.
I think we lost everyone, but we don't have to worry about it anymore.
The goal is to get between 10 and 16 contracts signed every month.
Say it again.
10 to
Goal
16,
is?
10 to 16 contracts signed.
I see. Okay.
With, so
10 to 16 contracts. And is this like a more scaled up version of what you were doing last year?
No, this is. I want to get there. I'm not there. The last year I was between 4 and 6, for more let's say 4 or 5 contracts every month.
Okay. And you still had 3 callers, or you had less callers?
No, the 3 callers, they just started in March. Before I had the 2 callers, and actually I'm doing cold calling since I started 6 months ago doing cold calling. Before I was doing mailers.
Okay.
But the return that I had on mailers was not like, was not bad, but the cost was too high, as you were mentioning before.
Yeah.
Getting crazy. So I still have.
Keep on increasing the price.
It's crazy. I think that I will still do mailers, but I will do something very, very targeted, probably for some entitlement deals, because I do also some of them, or some minor subdivide dedicated campaign, or targeting subdivision, something like that.
Right. I had the previous guest, Larry, on, and he was saying he spent like he sent like 17,000 thousand letters, and he didn't get a single deal.
Oh yeah, man, it happened to me. I arrived to send 30,000 a month, and there were months where I got like one signed purchase agreement for 30,000. It's big, but the approach was wrong, because I was adopting a spray and pray kind of approach.
Yeah.
Which is not something that you can do with the current prices of mailers. And so, but then I decided to target, I use like a data provider that allows me to go targeting pretty well now. So I started to go a little to narrow down my lists, started to send out 20,000 pretty targeted, and the number of signed purchase agreement increased, but still not enough to justify the expenses.
Yeah. Okay. You're testing out this cold calling. You're gonna let it run for a while?
Yes, I will let it run. I'm considering also adding a second channel, probably will be texting. I'm a little bit concerned about, the TCPA regulation and all this kind of stuff. I heard some horror stories, and so I am a a little bit cautious, but yeah, I'm considering it at the moment. Cold calling.
Right. How do you think in terms of like raising capital? I'm guessing you use some of your own capital for deals, and others you go out. We already talked about transactional funding.
Yeah.
But when you're doing, say, owner financing or buying on cash, how are you thinking of capital?
So the way that I like the most is by using my own capital. So I allocate a budget for my purchases. I want to have on my bank account nothing less than $50,000 sitting there to be used if I find like the strike property that I can buy at 50 or 20 and can double that money in a very short time. So I want to buy with my own money. But many times I have to rely on other people's money, in which case I use and use my money for marketing and the team, of course. In that case, I have some equity partner that I use. And sometimes I also have some lenders that lend me money. And actually is I think that, I mean, equity partners are great, but I think that once that you know your game and you are experienced enough, the cost of money that you can get from a lender is lower than the cost from an equity partner. I mean, equity partner, many times you have to lose 50% of the profit on a deal. And if you have a lender, the lender that I use is depends on how long you keep the property, but generally, if I can sell in 6 months, I end up paying like 7.5%, 8%. So it's way more convenient. Of course, you need to be confident and rely on your capability. I mean, you must be a good operator,
Right.
otherwise it becomes a risky game. Plus, I have also a joint venture ongoing with a couple of Italian guys that liked what I did, and I made them open an LLC in the US. So they are essentially silent capital funder, but not to purchase the property. Sometimes they also do that, actually, but to finance part of my marketing. And so the deal is that they finance part of my marketing. Everything goes out in name of D&A. I take title, so they just put the money. And everything that comes from their marketing, we split the profit 33% to me and 66% to them. But for me, it's no additional work because I am already using a cold caller. One of the 3 cold callers, for example, is completely paid by them. But if anything comes from him, then we split the profit.
That's an interesting model.
They also pay for one of the 2 acquisition managers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So now you're revealing your true secrets on how you're running this lean machine. You found a way to have your partners pay for your day-to-day expenses. Because that's what I was thinking. Like, what happens if you don't sell for a couple of months because you still have to pay these salaries bi-weekly, right?
Yeah, I pay them every month. Actually, the acquisition, the coding that I have with these partners that cover the marketing is that they should pay for the acquisition managers. So every acquisition manager that I have and for the marketing. Okay. So also the acquisition managers are working for the D&A and for the joint venture, but they are paying the acquisition managers and they pay the marketing for the joint venture. But because the last acquisition managers that we had was not really performing well, I said to them, okay, we are taking these 2 new, and I understand they were a little bit frustrated, and I was too, actually. So I said, you know what? I am paying now one of the 2 acquisition manager up until he will be where we want him to be. At that point, you will pay both of them as per our agreement. So at the moment, I'm paying one of them, but in theory, it's something that they should go.
Right. You mentioned bank financing 7%. Are these Italian banks or US banks?
No, I don't use banks. I actually started to build my credit score like 6 months ago. I use private lenders. So they are
At
private.
7%?
10%.
Oh,
10%.
10%. Okay. Because I thought you said 7%. I was like,
No,
well,
I was saying 7%, but I was thinking to another thing. It's almost 9.5. I think is
okay. All right. Yeah, that's more in line with like,
yeah, 10,
private lenders. Okay. Art, I think we covered a lot of topics. Look, I have like 6 pages worth of notes now. So that is a
Writing your
lot of
book, man.
yeah. I need to this will might be a chapter in my book because it's so much we covered.
Yeah.
Is there anything we missed?
No, I think that we covered pretty much everything, and it's been a
Yeah.
very, very interesting conversation.
Yeah. So just to recap, your goal, it's in one of my pages. So we were thinking of like 10 million. Oh yeah. So 5-year goal is $10 million. You're at 1.4 million since last year. What are the top 3 things you're thinking of to make sure you hit this goal? You already mentioned social media, being more active on social media. You mentioned buying better in acquisition, right? So tell me the top 3 things, like actionable items that
I
you're thinking that you will
the
execute.
I think so. The social media presence at this point of my business is important. The second one is buying at the right price and in giving as many options as possible to my sellers, like in the owner financing thing, for example. Another thing is being open to explore new sub niches of what is already a niche. So and this is why I have an entitlement that I finished. I have another entitlement ongoing, and I am like experiencing increase my experience in the entitlement game, which I honestly I don't love, and this could be
A lot
all
of work.
yeah, a lot of work, a lot of risk. It could be another podcast, but
Yeah.
undoubtedly is very profitable. Can be very profitable. And another one, and so I give you 4, is hiring. There is this wonderful book, and I'm sure that the audience read it, and you probably did. With I think was Sullivan and Hardy is Who Not How. Uh,
Mm,
and essentially surround yourself with someone who is better than you at doing things.
yeah.
There is the tendency to be involved in too many things when there are other people that you need to pay, of course, that can streamline a process, can be way better and make your business better. So it's about to overcome that resistance that we have in hiring someone that could really make the difference in the business. Acquisition manager, transaction coordinator, executive assistant. And so that is another thing. I would like to increase my team. I have a number in mind that is 26. I don't want to have more than 26 people in my team. And this is 26 is the number that I want to have in 10 years from now.
Mm.
But I have already assigned a role to each of them. But I think that hiring people is probably one of the most important things. Hiring the right people in the right moment is one of the most important things.
Yeah, totally agree. One of the principles, if you do end up reading my book,
I will.
one of the principles that I talk about, towards the end, and this is, by the way, principles book. So it has like 30, 36, 37 principles that helped us get to 700 plus deals. So one of the principles I talk about regarding hiring is when you hire a new person, that person needs to increase the average of the current team. So a lot of times I would get lazy and you're like, well, this person is good enough, let's hire. I don't want to spend more time interviewing, right? That's like the human thought process usually, right? Especially if you've been hiring for like if you're interviewing for like few weeks now, you're like, well, I'm tired of interviewing, this person is good enough, let's just hire. So that's like the worst thing you can do. Because now I think of, okay, right now I have a 16-person team. And when I interview someone, I think of, is this person better than the lower people in my team?
Yeah.
Right? Because I want my average performance and intelligence to go up, not down. So
Awesome.
if they are in the top half, that's when I'll consider them. Right? If not, then I would like don't even bother.
That's cool, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at the moment I have like 6 people. So, and the 2, they are newly hired, replace the previous 2 acquisition managers. But yeah, that is a good metrics. I will
Yeah.
apply. I will read the book. I'm sold on the book. I will
All right.
I will buy
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, please give me feedback,
Yeah,
because I'm
of
always like
course I will.
trying to improve it. Art, this has been a great conversation. We covered so many things. If someone is still here, right after we went into math, if someone is still here, they think Art is a cool guy. I want to hang out with him. Maybe I am visiting Italy. I would like to, you know, have coffee with him, or do some, joint venture. What is the best place for them to reach out?
So the best place I would see probably to get access to me, the fastest way, easiest way is on Facebook. You can find me as Arturo Paturzo. But if you go on internet and you say Arturo Land Investor, there are my contacts, my company, the podcast where I was invited as a guest, so you can find my contacts there. Otherwise, art@dienday, like the name of my company.com, is my email.
Perfect. Art, thank you so much for spending time with us. It was so much fun for me.
Thank you very much, Abi. I appreciate it.